Balake. Where is Balake at?
My name's Blake.
Do you want to go to war, Balake? I'm for real. Ron.
Ron is here, everyone. Welcome back for more SPTV, where every day's a great day not to be in a cult. Well, guys, it looks like Tom Cruise's best friend and the leader of the international human trafficking cult known as Scientology, David Miscavige, is going to avoid being deposed for now. I published a video earlier this morning. I got started early today, guys. I published a video earlier this morning discussing the tentative ruling that the judge had published last night for a hearing that was going to happen this morning in one of the 5 lawsuits currently outstanding against David Miscavige and against Scientology. And what was at issue is whether this entire lawsuit, which is brought by a number of Danny Masterson's victims and the husband of Jane Doe 3, whether this lawsuit was going to be put on stay in its entirety, or whether at least 2 of the 5 causes of action, were going to be able to move forward with depositions and with discovery, while the rest of the causes of action were on appeal by Scientology related to an anti-SLAPP motion that Scientology had lost. If the judge had ruled that discovery and depositions could move forward, this would have been very, very bad news for the tiny leader of Scientology, because he's eventually going to be deposed in this case. It is just a matter of how long can Scientology delay and postpone until that happens. So the hearing did occur, and the one and only Dodge Landisman was present in court to witness the proceedings, and he is joining us today. How are you, Dodge?
I'm good. How are you, sir?
Very good. I forgot to get our names up here.
That's all right.
I'll tell you what I didn't forget. I have it's here somewhere. Here we go. Boom. Dodge Landisman's channel. You can find him right there on YouTube if you are not already subscribed. Okay. So tell us what happened this morning, what went down, and what happens from here.
Yeah, no surprise. Unfortunately, it looks like we will not get another single development in this case until May. That is essentially because there is an attempt, as you explained, for the Scientology side to create this anti-SLAPP motion. That was denied by the judge who's dealing with this case, but they have appealed that denial. The judge expressed that he did want to move things forward, but the issues are so intertwined that they cannot be dissected enough quickly. And the other unfortunate aspect is that the 2 extra clauses being added, in addition to the additional Jane Doe, Tricia Vesey, he said because all of that needs to be analyzed down the road, that's going to take its own time. And therefore, the new information can't be heard before the appeal is heard, nor can the new Jane Doe be added. So it's a bit of a disappointment. There's going to be a lot of interesting information coming out because this was issued back in 2019. The reason all of these are being added on is because after the guilty conviction of Masterson, there was some momentum. So why not add these extra clauses? One was sexual battery. Why not add the extra Jane Doe? And it'll be an interesting case when we finally go into discovery. A lot of juicy details. One of the things will be about the poisoning of the dog, which I think likely will come up, which I think will generate a lot of mainstream news coverage. But disappointment, we won't see anything till May. And the judge expressly stated that the trial itself would probably start in about a year from now.
Interesting. I'm curious about that date that you said of May. So we're talking about May 2025. What is that date supposed to coincide with? Because the judge was the judge really trying to predict when Scientology's appeal on this anti-SLAPP motion would be resolved?
Yeah, surprisingly, he kind of gave a vague general time frame, saying, I'll see you guys for trial most likely in a year. And I believe in May they have to lock down a date, but there's going to be like a status conference, essentially. So perhaps checking up on the update of the appeal. And then maybe at that point, the Jane Does could say, now can we finally get this in motion? The appeal is being looked at. Another motion is made in May. So at least a lot of this might be submitted before the actual start of the trial, which would be in July or August, some point like that, as the judge indicated.
Okay, that makes sense. One of the things I touched on in my video summary this morning is that there's kind of two issues being raised by the plaintiff side at the same time. And one of the issues is whether the current 5 causes of action, whether any of those current causes of action can move forward in terms of discovery and
Right.
depositions, while the other things are on appeal. And the other thing is
They cannot.
whether they're going to take leave to file a second amended complaint where they're going to add civil RICO as a complaint to the lawsuit. They're going to add Danny Masterson's sexual assaults as a complaint to the civil lawsuit. And then they were going to add Trisha Vesey, who's no longer uses the Jane Doe moniker, as a plaintiff. I'm curious if the plaintiff's team mentioned anything at this morning's hearing about whether they are or are not going to bother move forward with. Now, I realize that the judge, denied everything for right now, but did they say anything about whether they still want to move forward, adding those complaints to the lawsuit and adding Trish Vesey to it?
They didn't really indicate that, only that there's been no change to try to get any of that out. So all of that is still moving forward. And again, and even when the judge said, listen, and again, the exact words were, the issues are so intertwined, they cannot be dissected quickly enough. She did not. So he even kind of gave her the opportunity, saying, well, I'm saying this because of the additional add-ons. So she could have taken that opportunity. The attorney could have taken that opportunity to say, well, you know what? Let's scratch them. Let's scratch Trisha. Let's scratch the additional 2 aspects. But she wants to go forward to them with them, probably because it'll strengthen their case. And that's the tragedy and the joy of the legal system, is this isn't really a setback for the Jane Does. Of course, the judge initially threw out the anti-SLAPP motion, so that's a very good sign. And the wheels of justice grind very slowly, so it's frustrating to sit and wait, but it's not a loss of momentum, or it's not a signifier that these Jane Does will have less of a case. With this evidence submitted, it's very obvious they'll have an even more strengthened case. So that's kind of the silver lining in all of this.
Yeah. I've seen the question about what is the reason, and I'm not really asking this for an answer, but I'm just for the commentary of it all. What is the benefit to trying to add extra complaints and extra plaintiffs to this lawsuit when this lawsuit's already mired down right now, instead of filing a new lawsuit? Because if you add additional complaints and an additional plaintiff, doesn't that open the door possibly to Miscavige and Scientology just being able to file a new anti-SLAPP motion and a new appeals process? And I don't know if you have any thought. I'm probably going to discuss that with my lawyer friend, Zach. Do you have any thoughts about this? Have you heard any discussions about this?
No, I haven't. The only argument that I would make is that a lot of this was filed initially before the duration of Danny Masterson's trial. So they felt like they had such strong additional evidence. And then there was already momentum, and knowing the ways that Scientology delays and delays and delays, if they started a brand new lawsuit from scratch, they might have to wait another year and a half simply for the first motion that we're dealing with now, simply for that first motion to even occur. So I do think, my guess is, in the name of expediency and not wanting to get every can kicked down the road, and with strengthened evidence, they just thought, yes, even though they could be knocked on one by one, at least you have everything bundled together at the same time and it's stronger, right? Because you could throw out aspects of the lawsuit, but that doesn't mean the entire lawsuit will be thrown out. And we've seen that, obviously, with other Scientology lawsuits, where maybe 2 out of 5 were thrown out, but the 3 of them, they move forward. Versus if a lawsuit was weak enough and it was a newer one based on the newer things that have come out, that whole thing has an even better chance of standing alone, of being thrown out anyway. So, why not throw everything at the kitchen sink and see what essentially sticks?
One other question that I have on this. In the judge's preliminary ruling, there was some language in there that my takeaway on it was, if the plaintiff's team had done this earlier with that perhaps the window if they had done it earlier,
Yeah.
and if they had followed the exact instructions of the judge, that perhaps the ruling would have been different. But it sounds like the judge might have said more at the hearing that was like that sort of would have kind of deleted that and be like, no, this was never going to go this way. Was there any discussion this morning about that issue?
Not particularly. He didn't mention it, only again that there was all this additional information. Perhaps it would have been helpful if all that was added and not in the very beginning, because that's impossible, but at least added 2 years ago. But no, he didn't add.
I'm sorry. I'm not talking about if they had tried to add the extra complaints and the extra Jane Doe. I mean, if they had tried to ask the judge to reconsider his decision to put the entire case on hold, as opposed to just 3 of the causes of action. That perhaps if that they had asked for the reconsideration a month or 2 earlier, that the outcome on that would have been different. What was the sense that you got this morning?
No, I don't think so. There wasn't so much back and forth about that anyway. And the appeal process is the same process with the appeal, no matter what's added or what's subtracted. So no, he didn't really admonish them for that aspect. And again, the attorney for the Jane Does asked, can we go ahead with specific aspects of it, minus the ones in question? And he said no. So they have to be taken as a group anyway. The separation effort was tried, but that wasn't accepted.
Right. Okay, great. Awesome, Dodge. Thank you for pulling over and taking the time to do this with me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. And three streams in like 12 hours on this. So well done.
Before you go, I'll show everyone once again
your
YouTube channel, Dodge Landisman. Thank you, man. I'll talk to you later.
Thank you, sir. See you.
All right, everyone. There you have it. That was the result that was expected after seeing the judge's tentative ruling. I was really interested to see how hard the plaintiff's team chose to argue this morning, and you sort of got the sense that maybe it would have been best if they didn't push their luck too much with the judge. And it really is a damn shame. This is just a perfect example of Scientology's delay tactic. It does not really matter how much money it's going to cost Scientology to appeal their loss in the ruling on the anti-SLAPP motion. I mean, Judge Kalra denied their anti-SLAPP motion in the strongest possible terms. And the fact that they're going to appeal this isn't even because they think the judge got it wrong. They're appealing this because that is the legal strategy as laid out by L. Ron Hubbard. Delay. L. Ron Hubbard specifically says you don't use the legal system to win. You use it to harass. You use it to intimidate. You use it to overwhelm. And it's one of the remarkable things about the Jane Does having been involved in litigation, whether it's participating in criminal cases and litigation or civil litigation for so long, is that, the strength of mind and character that it takes to be subjected to these processes and the stresses and the limitations that are put on you when you're in this litigation and discovery and all this kind of stuff. It is no small feat. And Scientology knows that. They'd rather have someone tied up for years and years and years and years and years, just for its own sake, just for the toll that it will take on one's their mood, just anything. So unfortunate, but this ruling from the judge does not actually, this is one of the remarkable things, doesn't actually weaken the case in any way, shape, or form. It's just the judge saying, well, until the appeals court tells Scientology to go shove it up their own ass, we're just going to sit over here and do nothing in the meantime. And it's unfortunate. The faster we can see David Miscavige deposed, the better. That's really the only bummer about it, is that he gets to kick that can down the street for what seems like another year now. I'm sure that May date that Dodge was talking about is really nothing more than a status conference, because I do not expect that that the appeal issue will be resolved by May. Not by a long shot. All right, I've got Marilyn helping me star some comments. Let's see what we got going on here. A Soon says until May means less than a year, and they can't do that forever. I try to see it as a positive as possible. Yep. I'm right on. I'm right there with you. I do think yeah, with the operative part here being they can't do that forever. And that's true. I mean, guys, one of the lawsuits that comes to the forefront of my mind is the Laura DeCrescenzo lawsuit. Laura DeCrescenzo. And this was essentially, God, I don't know how to characterize that lawsuit, what the right words would be. But she was forced as a child Sea Org member to terminate a pregnancy. And because it occurred when she was a minor, and because there was so much evidence in her files, her auditing files, her personnel files, her ethics files, that she very much did not want to do this. And the evidence of just how much pressure was applied to her by her seniors, by her ethics officer, and how that was applied was so egregious. She sued over this. It's one of the few cases where a legal team has succeeded in getting Scientology to turn over all of a person's auditing files. I'm not aware of that ever having happened before. They drug that lawsuit with Laura out for 9 years. 9 years. And then they set a court date. The court was scheduled to begin the next day. And the day before they were scheduled to go to court, Scientology basically said, okay, name your price. We're writing you a check. And at the end of the day, that is what civil litigation comes down to. No one's going to jail over civil litigation. So at the end of the day, a lawsuit's going to end monetarily, whether it's in a settlement or whether it's by a jury award, a jury verdict with an award. But that just goes to show you, Scientology had no intention of ever trying that case. It was delay, tactics until they have no more options, and then it's the money. So they can't do it forever. Eat more pizza now. Good to see you. Another roadblock, but the path is still there. Yep, it is still there, and the path is as clear and as clear as ever. Marissa Martin, justice for Jane Doe's dog. Yes, indeed. And Doc, thank you very much. Asun says, do you see the need to pick this decision apart and interpret it with Zach? Yes, indeed. I haven't done a video with Zach in a while now. I think we should, I'll text him after this and see if we can squeeze one in. It might have to be tomorrow because I got a big interview coming up in a couple hours that I'll be doing here live. So you guys can stay tuned for that. Magnus Gustafsson, a great day not to stream in vertical mode. Just for that, Magnus. Just for that. I'm going to go vertical later. Just kidding. Sphinxios, how come that they don't get the right to a quick, fast trial? Yes. So everyone has a constitutional right to a quick and speedy trial, but the schedules of the judges and the courts just are what they are. There's no getting around that. That really is the holdup on some of these things. If there were more judges and more availability, these things would go much faster, which, by the way, is the reason judges are so partial to arbitration agreements. And they're so quick to enforce arbitration agreements and not be very permissive of efforts to wiggle out of them, no matter how good the argumentation is. If it weren't for arbitration agreements, the courts would probably be 4 or 5 times busier, All right, let's see. Albert Berzazowski. How much, in your opinion, is David Miscavige scared or bothered by being deposed and generally by these lawsuits? I think it's fair to say that the single greatest fear David Miscavige has is actually having to be deposed. I don't think David Miscavige even cares much about bad PR, terrible stories, wrongful deaths, anything. Miscavige, using Scientology's money, will spend quite literally any amount of money to avoid being deposed. Being deposed for David Miscavige's worst case scenario. Abigail says, if the appeal is finished at the hearing in May, how can the lawsuit commence in August or September? Don't they need to do depositions, etc.? I'd love for the trial to happen so quick, but realistically, yeah, personally, I don't think that's realistic for the trial to happen that quickly. But I wasn't there, so I don't know what the judge said, and we don't have a transcript, but that does seem pretty quick. which I'd be totally in favor of. But like you said, I'm not sure it's totally realistic. Okay, Manuel Lubian. Honestly, do you have any faith that he will ever be brought out into the open to actually sit for trial? Yes. Yes. Oh, sit for trial? No. No. Sit for a deposition? Yes. The question is, at what point will Scientology open up the pocketbook and offer an amount of money so obscene that there's no choice but to settle? Is it when he has to sit for a depo, or is it when the thing goes to trial? Because he's not going to be able to weasel his way out of it, in my opinion. But like I said, he will spend any amount of money. Now, you might say, however much money they're willing to spend for him to avoid a deposition, they're going to be willing to spend a lot more than that to avoid trial. So, if I'm in the shoes of the plaintiffs or the attorneys, do I maybe go, maybe we don't accept any settlement agreement before the deposition? Maybe we play our cards right and we let it ride. Because there's no amount of money. No amount of money is too much money to avoid Miscavige having to tell the truth under oath. But if he's got to do that twice, do you make him do it once? Because it's one thing to be deposed. When you get on the stand, that's when they really pick you apart. Because now not only can they call you out on lies that you told when you told them, but they're going to call you out on inconsistencies between what you said in your deposition and what you're saying on the stand. You're going to be made a fool of 2 times over. Yeah, who knows? It's fun to speculate on it, though. Lori plays, wouldn't it be easy for him to just lie in deposition? I mean, they're so good at that. Oh, of course. He's going to lie his ass off through the entire deposition, but that's a deposition that can be videoed and then later made public. So if they ask David Miscavige questions on the record that he's obviously going to lie about, but then that whole deposition is made public, like I guess you might ask, who is David Miscavige more worried of being made a fool of in front of, or to? Is it the Scientologists in the world, of which there's about 20 to 30,000? Or is it the rest of the world at large? Is it just his best buddy, little Tommy Cruise? Who knows? All right. I have to cancel this. Someone's calling me. Okay. So there we go. Okay. That's it for this one, you guys. I have a big interview I'm doing in a couple hours, and there's one other video I'm going to try to squeeze in before then. We will see if I can pull it off. Thank you for hanging out with me. Thank you, as always, to everyone who watches until the very end, and I'll talk to you soon.
Okay, if you want to see my rock and roll songs, click right on this guitar. And if you want to see a different one of my videos, then you could click right inside here. If you have subscribed or not,